This is a review of the 2020 Union Force from you-know-who. But to give you a quick summary of what the Union Force is, it's kind of probably their most familiar binding in their line, and it's been around forever. I remember my first Force years ago, coming from a Burton binding, and just the way this responded and the way this rode was so different. One wasn't better than the other, but the change in the sharpness of response and just the dampness underfoot and the way this binding rode was so unique, it kind of blew my mind, and it was fun. And then I ended up owning a pair. It's come a long way since then, and it's evolved tremendously. They've done a lot of great things like adding washers that keep the screws tight now. Constantly tweaking the ankle strap. Of just watching this thing evolve over the years has been fun. And it's just one of those bindings that you get if you want something a little more on the responsive side, but you still want that all-mountain binding that kind of does a little bit of everything well. So let's get into it. Here's the flex. There's some decent twist, but it's really stiff going back. And if you compare that to the Atlas, it's really stiff. It's a lot stiffer. But on snow, they have similar performance. I'd say even the Atlas is a touch more responsive. But anyways, very good Highback. I remember looking at this Highback years ago and just not liking the look of it. And then I rode it, and then all of a sudden it became beautiful. And now I look at it and I go, oh, that's a cool Highback. To get to the adjustability, just like the Atlas, the Force is one of those really adjustable bindings. You've got a toe ramp that's adjustable and a heel loop that's adjustable. You've got 3 notches for rotating your high back so it's nice and comfortable. So if you're angled out, you can twist the high back this way so it lines up better with the heel side edge. And that's really cool. And then you've got really decent on the fly, toolless strap adjustability, but everybody has that. The big theme here is dialing it out to your boot. Forward lean for those who like that. But dialing this out to your boot, you can get your boot centered in the bindings, which means when you put it on the board, you're centered. You'll get better response, you'll less chance of toe and heel drag, etc., etc. The stance width adjustability, if you get this centered and dialed correctly, you don't have to turn the discs this way. You can turn them sideways. They're EST compatible, and you can basically slide them any way you'd like them. You can even set them up mini disc if you want, close together, so they work to find the right stance for you. So that's really cool. Now, the Ratchet System, really smooth. They've really improved their Ratchet System over the years. They just keep tweaking, keep working, ever kinetic, and they've really improved the Ratchet System. Now, boot support. Interesting thing here. This, you can see here, this is a team strap, and you can see that the team strap is much smaller now. This is what used to be on the old Force, or something very close to it. And now look at this. It's so much bigger. It's much closer in size to the Union Atlas. So it's got much more support, and it's very, stiff on the sides, and it's got a little give in the middle, so it doesn't bite in a forward flex. But it's very supportive, and it's really changed over the years. So now, if you had an older Force and you're looking at a newer Force, a 2020, this canted system and this ankle strap could be the reason why you'd want to buy it now. So it's come a long way. I love this more supportive ankle strap. The toe strap really pulls the boot into the heel cup, and this really locks it in, and it feels a lot better. You still have freedom of movement. You can still butter, you can still play around, but edge-to-edge response is a little better because of it. And I love the way this turns a board. At $250. It can power a board. It might not be the binding that the more expensive bindings are in the $300 range, but it can give you similar response. You compromise in other ways, and no binding's perfect, but if you're looking for a lot of response at a lower cost, this is a good choice. Buttering, the flex underfoot of the board when this binding's on it, it's kind of like the Atlas. You can see here, they have that similar full-size disc thing. There's a lot more contact with the board than, let's say, a mini disc. However, you've got a lot of it hollowed out or foam, so it flexes better than maybe your average full-size disc binding, but it still dampens up the board underfoot. The board feels stiffer and more damp because of it. So that's kind of a cool thing, but it's still not like gonna make it dead. It's got some butterability, so it's good there. And then shock absorption's pretty good. And I love this canted system. I love a canted binding. That's one of the reasons why I always like the Atlas over the Force. So pretty cool. They've really updated the Force a good bit to the point where it's a very, very recommendable binding. While the Atlas might be our personal favorite, the Force is still something that's very doable. Let's say if you like a little stiffer high back, you want to save a little more money. I think this is like $309 now. So, and this is like $249. So if you want to save a little money, have very similar response, similar ankle support now, canting, you've got the Force.